Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Dre with Bill 206. Bill 206 Media are here filming another episode of the Collective Network, where we bring folks that are doing amazing work in the community, so folks in the community can be connected and know what resources are out here. So today we're lucky to have a candidate for King County Council, as well as a current city council member of Renton, and she's been doing a lot of community work in the community, so she's going to share some of the work that she's doing. I see Kim in the back, so I'm going to bring her into the studio and we're going to get into this. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking time. I know it's busy, a lot of stuff going on, governing in the age of COVID. It's probably super, super busy for you, so we appreciate you making time to come onto our platform and share a little bit of the work that you have done and what you're trying to do in the community. Sounds like you're doing some stuff in Renton now and trying to dive into the council, King County Council, to have a larger impact. So let's jump in. I got about 8 questions here for you, and it's maybe some little bit of back and forth, but I just want to dive in. So share a little bit about yourself with folks so that people can get grounded in who you are, and then we'll jump into some other questions.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. My name is Kim Bang, and I am a Renton City Council member. But sort of my journey to Renton City Council is not just, being here, being a native born in the United States. I was a former refugee from Vietnam, and our family escaped Vietnam when I was 5 years old, landed in the refugee camp in the Philippines, life in limbo for about 7 months, and had charitable organizations sponsor us, and we resided in King County and started my journey as a kindergartner in public school. Went to University of Washington, obtained 2 bachelor's degrees, and went off to law school. I've been practicing law for about 10 years and really see the need in our South King County communities and our small businesses and the fact that has really our South King County communities been left behind. And really now seeing my work on City Council of Renton, and want to make sure that our region is not forgotten, right? Our district is not forgotten. And why I'm running for King County Council District 9, making sure that our electeds are connected with the people.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all the stuff that you've done and your amazing path to get to where you're at now, and as you continue to grow. That kind of segues us into our next question. You kind of dove into it a little bit, but I think you can elaborate a little more. If you could tell us a little bit of the work that you are doing or have done in community.
Yeah, so as part of our South King County communities and just seeing what's happening in our community, as an attorney, I have worked on pro bono cases with NIRP, Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, and One America Citizenship Day. More recently is our AAPI Against Hate movement that we started back in March, since our elders have really been the target of attack, and my volunteer work with King County Coalition Against Hate and Bias, where we document community members, BIPOC community members being targeted at the onset of COVID-19. So with King County, there are about 400 plus cases of incidents of hate and bias, from a kindergartner getting called Chinese virus to a African-American resident in Renton getting a gun pointed at her, so driving while black in Renton. It's a lot of these work that we're doing is just hearing our community stories and making sure that the policy reflects that. I'm also a part of the regional approach to gun violence and youth impacts, which is part of King County, and working with Will Jimerson Jr. and Derek Willer-Smith, learning from them and learning what the King County initiatives are for zero youth detention. And of course, working with Renton Technical College Foundation, providing scholarships for our working families, students who are non-traditional and traditional, to go to college, to go to trade school, vocation school, building that middle class. And most, as we all hear about the hate crimes that's on the rise, I think centering in community when we work and legislate and making policies, that is not just knee-jerk reaction, but really making sure that community are getting funded, for community-led, community-based solutions.
Yeah, that's critical, not to be reactive, but to be proactive, right? So that way we're not responding. That's kind of what law enforcement's role is now. They respond to things after they happen, and really we need the resources for us to be resilient and thrive to be proactive. And it's funny you mentioned Willard. Willard's actually one of our leadership members on Brothers United Leadership Development, and good cat, Derek Wheeler Smith too. Grew up playing basketball with him down at Rainier Community Center. So those two good brothers doing good, amazing things. So it's good to hear that you're tapped in with the amazing work that they're doing within the institution to try to get the resources out to the community.
And they invited me to it, so I've just been very blessed to learn what I have not known and learned. So I'm just very much learning and being informed so that we can make better policy, but also supporting our communities.
Yeah, you've got to have everybody in different areas, right? Policies. We got to have people on the ground, and they're able to get out there and actually implement. The resources need to be there to support those folks. So we need it's all different levels. It's not like one silver bullet that's going to solve the issues that we're facing. And also the work that you said you're doing in the API community, I think, that community has really been under the microscope right now with this last administration that left. It was just out of pocket what that last administration was doing. So my heart goes out to the API community. Our heart goes out to the API community, and we're in solidarity for sure, and making sure that we continue to move and work together. And that's what folks, if we really understand that oppressed folks, people with less, and we're stronger together, we have more in common than we do separately. And a lot of times the work and the way funding comes out and stuff, it gets us kind of fighting against each other. I call it institutional gangbanging. And it just gets us it gets us focused on our differences instead of focusing on how we can come together and be in coalition and work together. So I appreciate the work that you're doing with that as well. Let's segue into the next question, which is more something that's kind of things that make you tick. It's who inspires you, who or what inspires you, and why?
Yeah, it really goes back to my lived experience, right? So my single mother who, left an abusive relationship with my father, and because of the war, we are here. So, her resilience, like we say, our mothers, right? Black mothers, Asian mothers, like just our mothers have really, through sacrificing, through all the pain and all the things that they go through, that they're just resilient, and just learning so much from them and inspiring. My mother has inspired me from the get-go. And I wouldn't say I'm a mama's girl, because that doesn't, have not listened to my mother a lot of times, like running for politics and running for office. But certainly just that resilience and empowerment, really what we have, that I've learned from. And of course the teachers that we have had in grade school when I was taking ESL classes were nurturing. I was not fluent in English until I was literally in third, fourth grade. And then when I got into college, I have folks who would say that I wouldn't go to law school because of my SAT score. And that's pretty racist, right? But on different levels. And I think that thanks to counselors through the Educational Opportunity Program, the OMA at the UW, and of course, former council member, Mr. Larry Gossett, who had been one of the folks who started that program. Those counselors there really supported my journey to law school. And so it's pretty, when you're faced with these people who are your counselors, but yet they compare your SAT score and your chance of getting to law school. But SAT scores are for college college admission.
Right.
And I had a 3.8 at Garfield. I didn't do so well on my SAT score, but I'm not a standardized test kind of a person. And a lot of our BIPOC community members and a lot of our students, we never had the private tutoring growing up, right?
Right.
The LSAT is what you take to get into law school. But this counselor was comparing my SAT score to the law school admission. But yeah, just the empowerment and resilience from our community, my mother and the counselors that were part of the EOP really provided that inspiration.
Well, kudos to you for being resilient and pushing through and not letting somebody sidetrack you from what your mission, vision, and goals were, because that's a a lot of times people try to squash it. Their intent may not be that, but the impact could be that, right? So kudos to you for really being resilient. And like you said, using the lessons learned that you learned from your mother and other folks that's around you and programs that you were involved in to push through to make sure that you were able to continue down the path that you wanted to continue down around your education and learning. So hats off to you for that. There's been a lot going on over the last year, so we've been asking this question, and you can take it wherever you want to take it. What do you think about everything that's going on in this time? So I know that's a loaded question because it's a lot. It's been a lot. So I'll let you. I'm not going to drive you to where you go. I'll let you take it where you want to take it.
First, it's my heart, my soul, every fiber. It's go out to our African American community and what we've witnessed yesterday. It was not justice, it was accountability. So for me, I look at things as compassion, accountability, and centering community. And yesterday what we witnessed was our collective trauma, right? But it was not justice served because the individual passed, right? George Floyd passed, and there's still a lot of injustices in the system. Who in what it was yesterday was this accountability. So that's really been fresh on my mind, and even since last year. And one of the many reasons why I decided to run and ask our elders very much a thoughtful discussion, because the incumbent was someone who was the only no vote. He voted no against racism as a public health crisis after the murder of George Floyd last year. On June 12th, that's when he voted. And this was after, Asian community members have been attacked because of the federal government and their language and rhetoric in using the term Chinese virus. So, with what's happening right now, what I see is accountability all front, and have always seen that, but we just haven't gotten there. I think there's a lot of new ways, new approaches that we can use, different lens that we can use in governing, and not just like a top-down model, but really the collective and understanding and listening. Even if we don't understand, we need to listen to our community and what their struggles, what are their concerns are, and to lead us into a new norm that's going to work for everyone, and not just what's the status quo. And I think it's important because accountability is what we need in our government, right? Accountability, and then of course transparency, and that's just one factor when it comes to the relationship between government and individuals. Would we say criminal justice? But when we look at homelessness as an issue, right, and why folks become homeless, there's many reasons to that. But certainly, what have we done as a county to prevent it? Again, prevention, like I mentioned earlier, we don't want to do knee-jerk reaction. We've seen the evidence. We've seen all these lived experiences of what's happening. So how do we come out of COVID-19 where everyone is, every community is uplifted and we move forward together?
Right. And with that, just everything that's going on, I know it's created a lot of anxiety and stress, and just for everybody, it's just so many changes and everything that everybody's been going through. So the next question kind of feeds into that. It's kind of been a trendy topic on social media and just in general, but I found that, especially folks that are doing work, we're not always the best at doing self-care, taking care of ourselves. So part of that, and some of us that are doing better. So I'm being intentional on asking these questions because part of what we need as a community is to be able to heal and to be able to thrive, right? And I think part of it starts with having conversations and people sharing either what they're doing or not doing, and then us pushing each other to try to do better in that area. Or we may be able to get, strategies and tactics that people are using, and people can try those out. If we see people that look like us talking about meditation, acupuncture, massage, working out, counseling, therapy, those types of things, if we get people talking about it, it makes it a little more normal, and people may be open to trying those things out. So we want to make sure that we're intentional in asking questions around that. So the next question is, just everything that's going on now, what have you done to take care of yourself during this time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have to continue to learn because I think in our culture, in our family culture, it's like you kind of just take care of your elders, you take care of your kiddos, you take care of everyone, and oftentimes you forget to take care of yourself. So I haven't been doing great on that, just to be honest. But certainly I need to get back on track with meditation as part of our faith. We meditate. And meditate can be as simple as just breathing, taking 5 minutes out of your time, out of your day to kind of just deep breathing. Part of our campaign, we have been doing monthly Mindfulness Monday, where one of the small business owner and athletic club in Enumclaw had really supported us in just really talking about the holistic self and experiencing, just what it means to have mental health wellness, but not just that, but spiritual and physical, just the holistic approach. So I have to get back to meditation. Counseling is important. I think that, when we have an injured to the limbs, like if your hands, your arm's broken because you fell, you're going to go to the ER. If you are stressed out, if you are not able to calm yourself because there's so many situations that's just piling up, I recommend folks going to counseling. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like going to the doctor. We just call them counselor. And I've gone to counseling in the past, and I think it's helpful. I think we should all do that. It stretches your mind. It stretches, your spirit in ways that you can really reflect and be yourself. So definitely folks should not shy away from that, because it just treat it as if you're injured, because you are injured mentally.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being transparent and saying that's areas where you're kind of caregiving and not necessarily taking care of yourself. And that's part of why we asked this question. So I'm going to challenge you, like you said, to get back into your meditation and those things. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself, so you're filling yourself up, so you have the capacity to fill others up. And that's why we asked the question. I need to do better on meditation, but I have been working out every day and trying to eat a lot more healthier and doing those types of things, doing counseling and, having somebody to talk to just to get stuff off your chest, as well as this as kind of a practice that we do. We have Saturday check-ins with a group of intergenerational Black men. And that sometimes we just check in around different topics. We'll talk about how our week was or different things. So that's kind of, it's not necessarily formal therapy, but it's similar to that. So, that's, just sharing tactics and strategies that people are doing. And then, that's why I asked that question, because a lot of times people on this show are people that are serving, service leaders. And, a lot of times we're trying to help everybody else to be whole, and we're not necessarily taking on the steps that we need to be whole. So I appreciate you being transparent and sharing that, that you got some areas to work on with that. And like I said, I encourage you to step into that, because that's just going to make you a better leader, make you better prepared to, and so on and so forth. So my next question for you is, what advice would you give someone looking to get in to community work? So there's a lot of people that are, especially with the movement that happened last year, or that's been going on forever. We just got, a little more highlight last year. There's a lot of people that, stepped in and stepped out. Also, there's just a lot of people that want to volunteer, get involved, or lead, or whatever. Like, just what advice would you give people to get involved in community work?
Yeah, I think it would boil down to 3 things, and I'm just randomly thinking of it now. But one is act, right? If you want to do something, do it. Now, the second thing is research, right? Because you might want to support a rally. You might want to just do a voter registration. So you got to do your homework. You got to research, making sure that whichever organization you're going with, that it aligns with your values, whatever project you decide to do. Make sure that you're going to follow through and do it, whether it's as a lead or as just a volunteer. And then part of your research is understanding those who've already been doing the work. So, it's the movement just didn't start today or last month with the AAPI against hate. I mean, our Asian elders have been fighting the fight since 1800s, right? Since the first folks who came here as railroad workers. So it's really a different a reiteration or a different way of going about with this. But, from the railroads to, you had the Chinese Exclusion Act to, the internment camp, to Vincent Chen, Rodney King, all those things. So really doing the research and getting the knowledge from our elders. And then, of course, third, last is see if you can work with other allies, BIPOC and non-BIPOC, because we need everybody in the movement. We need everybody in community work. Everyone has a role. And so those are the three things that I would boil down to, and really not be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, that's good, solid advice. And like you said, start somewhere. Like you said, just act. And there's a lot of people doing amazing work, so you don't got to create your own thing. Sometimes you can, get your feet wet, supporting other folks. What I found is when you're looking at issues, there's often so many different ways to go about it, right? How do you skin the cat? Like we're talking about, issues with law enforcement, education, housing, or whatever. So even though we may all be on the same issue, our strategies and tactics may, and that's where a lot of times so just have patience and try to work with people and have positive intent, right? Like assume a positive intent, because you guys are both there for the same issue. But like a lot of times people get into nitpicking around how we're trying to address the issue. And that just shows how complex a lot of these issues of oppression and, institutional racism are, because there's no right answer. Nobody has the silver bullet. And so we all got to work together to make those things happen. So I think the advice you gave was really enlightening and on point. There's three easy things that people could do. Go, get involved, do your research, find out what's going on, and then be collaborative, collaborate, don't be exclusionary, make sure that you're working together and have the impact that you want to really have. So we're winding down to our last couple questions. So I want to provide you with a space. It'll be in the show description, but I want to provide you because we know people taking information different. So I want to give you an opportunity to share best ways for folks to get in contact with you.
Yeah, best way is to check out our campaign page at electkimkhanvan.com. That's KIMKHANHVAN.com, or just give me a ring. 206-304-0642, or a text. I'm very much accessible. Want to build with community and understand your priorities and concerns. I think there's nothing is impossible. I think we can all work through this. We're stronger together, and really building community from the ground up, right? Because we can't look at top-down models. We really need to make sure that folks who are connected to our community understand the needs, and then to elevate those stories. All right,
well, thank you for sharing that. And what I always do is, since I've been asking the questions this whole time, the last question isn't really a question for you. It's, do you have any questions for me? So I always give people an opportunity to ask any questions they may have of me. So now if you want to ask any questions, feel free.
Well, definitely. My question to you is, what is your big main concern? Like, if you can fix something, what is an issue that's kind of dear to your heart?
Well, Brothers United Leadership Development, we focus on issues that impact Black men and boys, but we also understand the intersectionality, right? It's kind of like targeted universalism, right? I think people use like curb cuts as an example, right? If the curb cuts for people with disabilities, but the mother with the stroller, the person on the bike, everybody benefits. So we kind of feel like if we could address the issues that Black men and boys are facing, then everybody's gonna benefit. So, I mean, ideally, world peace and poverty and all those things are huge, goals of me personally, right? But as far as like locally and the work that Brothers United Leadership Development is doing is really trying to, have a holistic approach on how we can, heal from our trauma, have safe spaces for us to share stories like this, things that people are doing, and share resources with the community. So, really, that's kind of how we go about the approach. But like I said, I would like to make the world a better place for my son. I got a 12-year-old son. He's about to be 13 and in July. And I want to make sure that I'm leaving it as a better place, and he doesn't have to go through some of the experiences I went through. And then ultimately, when he has kids, it just continues to get better, because right now we're passing, sometimes it's at a deficit, right? Sometimes it gets worse with climate change and everything else. We're just leaving things in a worse situation. So hopefully we can continue to work to make the world a better place and groom our young folks, to be leaders and listen to them as leaders and learn from them, and just continue to try to improve. Any other questions?
I guess I still have a minute or two, right?
Yeah, no, there's no rush. It's our platform, so we do what we want to do. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What you kind of just alluded to it, but what kind of got you into doing this? I mean, more specifically, love to understand your perspective, not necessarily the organizational perspective.
For sure. So I grew up in South Seattle, was involved in, gang activity and, ripping and running, didn't have a father. So a lot of the male role models I had, even though at the time I thought they were looking out for me. And I learned, just even through that culture, I learned a lot of core values, trust, respect, accountability, follow through, word is bond, you do what you say you're going to do. But there was also a lot of negative stuff that I picked up, through that. And at the time, I thought I was, learning a lot of good things. And I think that transpires a lot of times we're being socialized in negative aspects, especially, within our community. And, there was and then I ended up losing my brother when I was 23 years old. He was 25. I lost my brother when I was 23. So that was really a knee jerk. And I was already making my transition. I had just bought my first home. I had a couple of businesses at the time. So I was already making my transition to, trying to, be more positive and try to push people in the right direction. I always had it in me. Like I was always the one breaking up fights and always was a leader. So I'd always would try to use that influence to try to lead people in a positive light. So it was natural for me to, when I lost my brother, to really use that as a driving force I started volunteering with young folks. I started coaching basketball. And then as I coached basketball, I asked them for the progress report. All of them were failing, got their parents involved. At the time I was 24 years old. I didn't understand what I was doing. Really what I did was I set up, just off the strength, I set up a wraparound program where I was working with their family, working with the schools, incentivizing academics through recreation and sports and field trips in the relationship that I was able to leverage with them. And I did a lot of interactive activities with them and their families as well as the school. So it was really a wraparound program. But at the time I didn't know, I didn't know what it was. I was just doing it because it was the right thing to do. And that's kind of how I approached the work to this day. So that was in 2005. And so here we are in 2021. I'm still involved, still entrenched, and I got exposed to a lot of folks that have done amazing work, that have taken me under their wing and mentored me through this process. And I still got room to grow. I still got room to learn. But that, in a nutshell, that's what drives me is, I saw the loss of my brother and other people I grew up with. I started going to funerals when I was like 11 years old, which is a part of, socialization where it becomes a sense of normalcy, and it's really not normal. We're losing people, we're losing brilliancy, we're losing a lot of resources to nonsense. And so we really need to try to foster the resiliency and figure out what people's gifts are, instead of people trying to drive to gifts that society are telling us that we should do. Kind of like that counselor telling you, yeah, you shouldn't do that because X, Y, and Z. It's like we should be fostering whatever resiliency and what their full capacity and what their gifts are. And I think a lot of times people don't really get to explore or dive into what their gifts really are. And that's sad. So that's what got me into the work, and I'm going to continue. So it's in me, not on me. It's definitely a work of love, which sometimes I don't know how to turn it off. That's another self-care thing. I just go, trying to do things and trying to be innovative and trying to make things happen. Especially with COVID, it was just a lot. Even us in this Bill 206 media, a lot of the work we did was in community groups, workshops, activities, and events. But we had to make a shift because of what was going on with COVID. So we started learning these new skills, which are going to be beneficial for us and other organizations, because we're sharing this knowledge with other organizations and trying to provide platforms and training to help other people be more resilient and navigate through these processes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, all right. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll definitely be in touch, because we're going to be trying to roll out other podcast series, and some of the stuff that we're working on is around the criminal justice system. How can we heal and be thrive through that? So I definitely will add you to our list to reach out to talk about some of the policies and procedures that you are trying to push forward on your platform, as well as how the community can support, because it's got to be a give and take, right? We got to have people in different positions, from the ground all the way to the policymakers. So how can we work in coalition to push the agenda agenda for. So I'll add you to our list, and I'll send you an email with some follow-up stuff here once we're done. So we appreciate your time, taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and share some of the amazing work that you've been doing in the community.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.
All right.
So once again, this is Dre with Bill 206 Media. As you could hear, Kim's involved in a lot of amazing things in the community, has been involved in a lot of amazing things, very resilient, which is an example of how Black, Indigenous, and people of color have been functioning in this society. So this show is a collective network, and that's what we're here to do, is to bring amazing people that are doing amazing things to share the resources that they have, so community can get tapped into them. So until next time, y'all have a good one. Peace.